Well, in 3 hours, the president will deliver a message to the nation, his sixth State of the Union address. He'll be focused on middle-class economics and ways to boost wages and mobility. And tonight, our own Andrew Whitman, senior political correspondent, he's live from the nation's capital.
It is State of the Union Day here in Washington. The president and Republicans all focused on the middle class, while the rest of us wonder about partisanship, whether there's too much of it to get anything done. I'm Andrew Whitman, all of the very latest live from the Capitol, coming up.
We'll also be joined by political analyst Cokie Roberts. She's going to speak to RFL about the State of the Union and the upcoming challenges the president's going to face with the GOP that now runs the House and the Senate. Evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks for joining us tonight. And we're going to start in Washington, where, as I said, in under 3 hours now, the president, he is going to be set to deliver his sixth State of the Union address. And for the first time, the president, he'll deliver the address before a Republican majority in both House and Senate. And our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman, he joins us live in D.C. with a preview of what we can expect. Andrew?
Well, Rich, so many times on this program we talk about how Republicans and Democrats can't see eye to eye on any single issue. Tonight there's pretty much unanimity here in Washington. Everybody wants to talk about the middle class and expanding opportunity for the middle class. Of course, the parties do not see eye to eye on exactly how to do that. As for President Obama, he's got a lot of proposals that are aimed squarely at the middle class. We'll hear from him in just a few hours. For the past 2 weeks, President Obama's been on something of a spoiler tour.
The country's coming back, but I want everybody to feel like things are getting better.
Rolling out many of the policy proposals he'll formally unveil in tonight's State of the Union address. The White House wanted to try and start drumming up support for his agenda, much of which is aimed squarely at the middle class. Some of the initiatives the president will lay out include tax cuts for middle-income earners, free community college for 2 years, and guaranteeing 7 days paid sick leave for workers. The White House plans to pay for these proposals with more significant tax increases on the wealthiest Americans. President Obama's coming into tonight's speech with some momentum and is looking to capitalize on Americans' growing sense of optimism when it comes to the economy. Gas prices are plunging and nearly 3 million jobs were added last year, the best year since 1999. 41% right now say the economy is excellent or good, up significantly from just 3 months ago. Tonight will mark the first time President Obama delivers his State of the Union to a Republican-controlled House and Senate, which means his address may turn out to be more of a wish list. It's unlikely Republican leaders will act on his proposals.
He doesn't set the agenda in the Senate. We're going to try to do the things that we think will make America a better place.
Now, with so much daylight between the two parties, we turn to someone who is familiar with at least the basic principles, if not the whole policies behind both parties or that are pushing each party. Congressman Jim Himes represents the 4th District of Connecticut. As you know, he has a background with Goldman Sachs and is well experienced with Wall Street and the needs of business. He's also a Democrat who was the campaign finance chairman for the DCCC, helping elect more Democrats to Congress. We spoke a short time ago about what to expect in tonight's State of the Union address and what he's looking for from the president tonight. And for more, we are joined by Congressman Jim Himes, Democrat representing the 4th District of Connecticut. Congressman Himes, thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you.
So all of this talk today from both parties about the middle class, where has that been over the last few years?
Well, I think it's interesting. From the Democratic standpoint, of course, the last election was fought around some ideas that probably, in retrospect, the middle class didn't resonate with all that much, minimum wage being at the top of the list. So I think the Democrats are newly focused. And interestingly enough, the Republicans are too. I mean, I tell you, I never imagined I would live so long as to see Mitt Romney out there talking about, the unemployed and, people trying to get up into the middle class. That was not the Mitt Romney who ran for president last time around. So, I think what you're seeing now is a moment in time where you've had a strong recovery nationally, but the benefits of that recovery have not been felt broadly. So a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, what about me? And of course, those people tend to be more in the middle class, and of course, those who are below the middle class, typically, as is always in these situations, continue to struggle.
What are the issues that you're hoping to hear from the president tonight, the ones that will make you go, from your chair and pay even closer attention?
Well, I hope, you've seen proposals and you've sort of seen the president talk about a little bit about what he's going to talk about. And his focus on education, I think, is a great thing. The middle class has had a really rough time in this country for, let's call it 50 years for a whole lot of reasons. But a lot of that has to do with, globalization and the fact that we're competing with people all over the world now. It has to do with technology. Someone I know is fond of using the analogy that Borders books, tens of thousands of employees went away. Why? Because of technology. So I really think the answer to those challenges are better education, and obviously community colleges and whatever else we can do to make further training and education available to all Americans is probably the very best thing we can do. You asked about the middle class, to make sure more people get into and stay in the middle class.
Are there any issues that you're hoping that you would hear from the president tonight that maybe you're not expecting to hear that would be a pleasant surprise, or that frankly you think in another year might be there that would catch you a little off guard?
Yeah, I hope, and I say this as a representative of southwestern Connecticut, but this I think is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. I want to hear the president get serious and visionary about infrastructure, our roadways, our railways, our networks, not just securing those networks and expanding the roadways, but be a little visionary about it. We're in this fight over, is the gas tax sufficient to build new highways? Let's think innovatively. Let's set up a national infrastructure bank that actually draws on public sector monies as well as private sector monies to bring the country into the 21st century. So that may not be sexy, but I'll tell you, there's just not a person in this country who doesn't, certainly in my neck of the woods, that doesn't feel the burden of antiquated infrastructure every single day.
Is that a topic that is going to come up in the speech tonight? Do you have any inside information about it?
I don't know. I have not seen a copy. Look, I think we're going to hear about education. We're going to hear about the economy. I think the president is obviously going to make the case that things like the ACA and Dodd-Frank have actually protected the middle class in a pretty significant way. Look, I think it's inevitable that we're going to hear something about terrorism. And again, I hope that is a visionary framing of what we do around terrorism rather than just, more military attacks. So, but we'll see. I haven't seen the speech yet.
In another year, in a different year, you and I might be asking you how many of these bills will actually become law and use that as the criteria for a successful State of the Union from the president. It's 2015. You and I both know the way Washington has worked the last few years. And with a Republican Senate in addition to a Republican House, there's not a lot of expectation that a lot of what he says tonight will actually make its way into law. So short of that, what's the definition of a good State of the Union for President Obama? How do you know he's knocked it out of the park? If it sparks the national dialogue, if it gets people talking who might not otherwise be talking, how will we know how to score this speech?
Yeah, I think, look, it's a Democratic president, with 2 years left in his term. He's obviously going to make some points that probably the other side will characterize as populist, as typically Democratic, as political. Of course that will happen. It always does. I hope, though, that the president also paints a path for real progress on areas where we suspect or even know that there is common ground. Tax reform, a simplification of our unbelievably complicated tax code to make it more competitive, to make it more fair. I hope the president kind of lays out a path for that. And but what I mean by that is not just say, here's what I need, but indicate how he thinks, where he thinks his party and he may have some flexibility to get somewhere. So tax reform, you're going to hear a lot about trade in the coming months. You've got, I think, common ground on trade in both parties. Things like cybersecurity, where we all scratch our heads and say, boy, we could be doing a lot better there. So in addition to the politics, which are a part of every State of the Union speech, I hope that he sort of draws a roadmap for at least 3 or 4 areas where there's a possibility for Republicans to work with Democrats.
Finally, you spoke very positively about the economy. I expect the president will speak positively about the economy. A lot of people still aren't feeling it. Would you say the state of the economy, are we in full recovery? Is it a recovery that just hasn't been felt by all sectors yet? How would you describe our economy right now?
Well, when you look at the economy as a whole, there's no arguing with the fact that it's been a fairly strong recovery. Certainly if you look at the recovery compared to any other industrialized countries. You wouldn't want to be in Europe right now. You don't want Asian economic problems. The U.S. stands alone as a pretty strong recovery, but the problem is, as you point out, it is not nearly as broadly felt as it needs to be.
And it's really been more of a top-end recovery.
Top-end recovery. Look, the recovery, the stock market has been extraordinary. But how many Americans, what percentage of Americans are actually invested in the stock market? It is, of course, that kind of top layer of Americans that have benefited from that stock market run.
Congressman Jim Himes, 4th District of Connecticut, thank you very much. We'll see you after the address.
Sounds good.
we have much more to get to tonight from Washington as we talk with lawmakers from both parties about the best prescription to help the middle class. We're also going to talk about the partisanship that has seemed to really grind Washington to a halt in recent years, see if there's anything that can break through it. And we're going to take a look at the State of the Union from somebody who has not been through this before, freshman Congressman from Long Island, Lee Zeldin. We'll talk to him later on in the program. But for now, Andrew Whitman reporting live from Capitol Hill in Washington. Rich, let's send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Andrew, thank you. And we'll check back in, as you said, in just a few minutes. But we want to bring you into our conversation as well. So give us a call from home here. The toll-free number right there on the screen, 3-8-766-2428. Again, the toll-free lines are open right now, 888-766-2428. Tell us what you want to hear from the president, expectations. You already got an idea. He's laid out a roadmap of sorts, what he's going to hit on tonight. What do you think about that? We'll get into all that. Now, earlier today, I spoke with ABC political analyst Cokie Roberts. She's going to be talking with us about a number of issues facing both Washington as well as her predictions for what the president's address to the nation might look like and sound like tonight. If you set the goal for the president of this administration coming out of this, is it really more to set the terms of the debate that's coming down, or who's the audience? Is it Congress or the American public?
Very much the American public. And yes, it is to set the goals of the debate and the debate going into next year's election. I think that the president's going to make this strong case that he's been making over the last couple of weeks for middle-income working families, and say that this is the job of the Congress, is to help them out in a recovery that has not reached them, and it's the job of the rich to pay for it. And I think that that's going to be a very popular theme with the American people, and not at all popular with the Republican Congress.
Well, you couple that tax plan and obviously his plan as it relates to community college. Is it to really put the Republicans on defense to say what they're against rather than what they're for? Does the president even think that there's some give here? They could get some of this through. It seems like it's DOA, the tax plan, before it even gets going.
Yeah, I really don't think it's designed to pass. I think it is designed to put Republicans in a box and to have them, have to try to figure out a way to look like that they aren't defending the rich to the detriment of the middle income, and that's going to be tough for them. Look, it is the oldest trick in the Democratic deck of cards, is to say the Republicans are for the rich. It's been working since Herbert Hoover, and the question is sometimes the Democrats don't remember to do that, and it gets them in trouble. That's what happened in 2014. They didn't talk about the middle income. They didn't talk about these issues, and they lost. Now, there were lots of other reasons they lost too, but that's the sense of the party going into 2016, is they need to focus on these issues and let the American people know that they're for them. And now they've got the luxury of a Republican-controlled Congress to point to and say, well, those guys just didn't do it.
Do you think we hear the words Ferguson tonight from the president, or we hear about Eric Garner? Does he mention some of the strife, certainly in our neck of the woods, between the PD and some communities here in terms of policing, or not?
I would be surprised if he mentioned the words Ferguson or Staten Island or any of those things. I wouldn't be surprised if he talked about racial harmony and bringing people together across income levels and across racial levels.
Finally, does the president kind of pick up? He's picked up a few points. He's still below 50, but his approval ratings are up. Is it more of a hopeful address, saying, hey, look, the gas prices are down, the economy's up? Or is he more forceful tonight to say, I am relevant, guys, I'm not going away, or we're not going to wait till 16 to try and do things?
Oh, I think it's all of the above. I think that he is very much saying, I'm in this game, and I'm going to do things that if you're not going to do them, I'm going to do them. But I do think that he wants to make the case that the economy is better and that it's his policies that have done that. But he has to be careful, and he's well aware of this, that there are people who have not felt that the economy is better. And that's why he's proposing all of these goodies. And I think that's what you're going to hear. The economy is better. We've made it better. But not everybody is feeling it to the same degree. The rich are feeling just great. And now they can help us out in helping everybody else feel the impact of a better economy.
Cokie Roberts, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Okay, nice to be with you.
All right, let's bring in our good friend Dominic Carter here, political journalist and author.
Good evening, Richard.
Good evening to you. What's the headline tomorrow going to be after tonight?
Obama pushes big initiatives, and it's all dead on arrival, all of it. So what you get from the president tonight, these are all theatrics with 2016 in mind, the presidential race. As your panelists have already said, it's about boxing Republican ends. But you have to remember, Richard, and I hate to be a naysayer, if you will, on the night of the State of the Union address, but for a president that went forth with immigration, that went forth with Cuba, against the objections of Republicans, they're now not going to play ball with him. And anything that's impacting their base, the rich, they're not going to go against that.
They do have something to lose that they didn't have a year ago, which was they could blame the president for anything. If there was gridlock in Washington, they'd say, don't blame us. You got Democrats in the Senate and the president sitting in the big chair in the Oval Office. Now they're running the show in the House and the Senate. So they got to make the compelling argument, I would think, in the run-up to 16, that, hey, you put us in charge, we got some stuff done. So while none of it will be the way the president lays it out today, there's more initiative for them to play some ball here. They'd love for immigration to get out of the way. Supreme Court's going to take up gay marriage right now. They had to be doing cartwheels on this because then it doesn't put the pressure on them. As much stuff as they can get out of the way that won't hurt them in 16 now, you'd figure they'd be incentivized to do that. I'm not saying they're going to go with the tax plan, but there's some stuff here where they'd want to get some credit for if it's going to push through.
It's almost like the equivalent, to break it down to this level, of two little kids playing ball. It's the one whose ball it is. We're playing the game with my ball, so it's my rules, and this is the way it's going to go. That's basically what Republicans are saying, Richard. The first test of what you just laid out that I will be looking for tonight to show how Republicans are in control, they have to behave with good attitude. So they can't afford tonight.
Liar.
Right, you can't afford liar or any of those things to embarrass this Democratic elected president 6 years into his term.
Well, we've got a full night for this here. In addition to our coverage for this hour, we'll go head back to Andrew very shortly and your phone calls. We're also going to be having complete coverage here starting in the run-up to 9 o'clock, and then we'll bring you the entire State of the Union in its entirety. And then we'll be getting your reaction. We'll also be joined by former Congressperson Nan Hayward. She'll be joining Dom and I on set as well as Dominic, as well as Andrew, getting live reaction in Washington. Okay, in addition to the toll-free lines, give us a shout on social media. When we come back, the big issues, trust me, you're going to be talking about and hearing about tonight are middle class. That's the target demo the president wants to hit on. We're going to talk about those economic initiatives, and we'll also be getting some of your reaction as well. Stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back.